I wanted to welcome everyone in the room and also those who have logged on live stream. This is our first time doing GETTR in Sydney, so we're really happy to be here, and hopefully we've got some new faces who can join us today. So there's never been a better time to rely on science, medical discoveries, precision medicine and gene therapy for an answer. So we're collectively at the precipice of a new medical era. I think you'll agree we want more for our loved ones with genetic epilepsy. We want a better quality of life. We want them to be more independent. So today, I know thanks for being here, the ones in the room and those who have joined on live stream. We know your energy and time is in short supply, more than most people. And we understand the sacrifices you've made to be here, so thank you. And we also know that you don't want false hope. So today and tomorrow, we encourage you to immerse yourself in the 2 days, or the 1 day if you're here for one. Leave your day-to-day worries at the door and allow yourself to see the potential of modern medicine, of precision medicine, and allow yourself to hope. I encourage you to harness the energy of the group. This is your tribe. I think Jenny now has posted that just today. She's going to see her tribe. This is your tribe. And we all have moments where we can't show up, and you got here today, so thank you, and those on live stream, we're here to support you as well. I want you to be inspired by what you hear from our clinicians and researchers, and also from our carers and parents and families who will talk in the next 2 days, and leave with a renewed energy and hope that your quality of life could improve, and the quality of life of your loved one with genetic epilepsy. Who are we? Okay, who are we? So GETTR is, in Australia, we've got a small population compared to the rest of the world, obviously. So compared to US and Europe, we've had to team up. Genetic epilepsy has a small cohort, and the Australian population is quite small. So the purpose of GETTR is we've teamed up so that we're not so small. So individually we're small, but together we're quite big. So we've teamed up to harness the benefits of being a collective. The energy, the infrastructure and the learnings. So GETTR is ultimately a group of parents. One second. GETTR is ultimately a group of parents who have children with rare genetic epilepsies. So we've teamed up with the world leaders in the field of genetic epilepsy to educate the community on what's possible, and also what's possible when it comes to precision medicine for our loved ones. So while our children have different kinds of epilepsy or genetic epilepsies, there's so much that we do share amongst ourselves. Our goal is to support the research that happens here in Australia, but also the research that happens globally, from stem cells to mouse models and biotechs and beyond. So when it comes to genetic epilepsy in Australia, our clinicians and researchers have really thrust us onto the world stage. So we've got some of the best researchers and clinicians right here in Australia. So from the groundbreaking work of Professor Sam Berkovich and Professor Ingrid Scheffer in Melbourne, they've identified a lot of the genes that cause epilepsy over the years. In fact, they discovered the bulk of the 100 or so epilepsy genes. As well as those clinicians, we're also leaders in the field of discovery. So Australian researchers are also at the forefront of the search for treatments and cures for genetic epilepsy, with groundbreaking work underway that you'll hear about today and a little bit tomorrow as well. So who are we? Who are we as GETTR? So I suspect we're not PJ Masks. That's what he's watching over there. Who are we? I suspect we're just like you. So with the base level of stress that rivals a colonel on the front line, but on a constant basis. That's how we live. We're the ones who are faced with impossible decisions on a daily basis, like you. Do I choose a child who is alert, or one who is seizure-free and zombified? That's a word I made up, it's a word. They're our choices, that we have these impossible decisions on a daily basis. So we're just like you. We've gone through that process where we've wondered whether the seizures are causing the insomnia, the developmental delay, the behavioural issues, or whether there's something else that's causing it all. And ultimately, most of us have found that something else in a genetic epilepsy. We're just like you, where we operate as the manager of our loved one's life, hiring carers, implementing therapies, arranging appointments, and managing the NDIS, doing that admin. Just like you, we're basically the CEO of a small business with much more at stake than the average CEO. Oh, and we're also the CFO and the COO, customer service rep and HR manager. We're everything. We're just like you, and just like you, we want the best modern medicine can provide for our loved ones. So GETA stands for Genetic Epilepsy Team Australia, and our mantra is get a team, get a target, get a cure. So when we say get a team, you're all part of this team. So you as families, anyone who loves someone with genetic epilepsy, clinicians, our researchers, we're all part of that team. At its heart, GETA was founded by 3 families. We've got Sarah, James and Andrew Butcher, who aren't here today, but they've helped us plan this event, and they'll be back next year. They've got a daughter with KCNQ2, Jackie. There's Chris Pearce and Dave Cunnington. These 2 over here, they're basically the engine room for GETA. They have a son called Will, and he's got SEN2A. And there's myself and my husband Danny, who's just lounging in the front seat there. He's just chilling out. Does anyone want to give him a pina colada maybe? We've got 2 girls with SYNGAP, so Jaylee and Darlie, 12 and 10 years old. So a quick snippet. I'm meant to be watching the time, and I think I'm the first one to go over the time. Quick snippet about us. The first time I was asked to speak about the girls, I was really emotional, and I thought I'll keep it really factual so that I don't get overwhelmed and break down. And I've actually always returned back to this one slide where I talk about the facts, the numbers, and I'll give you the updated numbers for us. So we've got 2 daughters. One second, my screen's gone blank. Let's see how much of it I can remember. We've got 2 daughters. They've got 12 symptoms. They've got 5 different seizures and growing. So we just had a new seizure that started up last year. We've got 6 seizure types now. At worst, they've had 52 seizures every hour. 24 trialled anticonvulsants, 3 diets, 7 homeopathic supplements, 20 specialists across 11 different specialties, 19 therapists, 6 years on the diagnostic odyssey before we actually got a diagnosis of SYNGAP. Over 3,500 disturbed and worried nights, over 400 appointments equaling 20 working weeks, 57 blood tests, 10 urine samples, 2 lumbar punctions, 600 blood ketone measures while we're on the ketogenic diet, 3 anaesthetics, 3 MRIs, 10 EEGs. I think some of you are thinking, geez, that's nothing, we've got more than that. Where are we? We've got 3 sleep studies involving EEGs. We did one with CE Medical, who will introduce it in a moment. The sleep studies with EEGs, 24/7 video monitoring, 1 3-day video monitoring at home, 4 visits to A&E, ambulance rides, 22 differential diagnoses before we actually got the right diagnosis, 29 therapy and treatment ideas explored. So that's 29 times we got our hopes built up and smashed. 1 emotional roller coaster, 1 diagnosis, and after the diagnosis we feel like we really have some hope now. We've also been involved in some of the research. Unfortunately, we're not at the clinical trial stage for any gene therapies for SYNGAP, but we have been involved in some of the more therapeutic type things like transdermal CBD trials. So 1 clinical trial for therapy, 1 skin biopsy for research, biosamples, 2 biosamples for microbiome research and other research. We're participating in the natural history studies for our condition, and 4 biomed samples provided, and we've also been involved in a research paper that's been published. So that's a snippet about us, just to give you a little feel that we are very similar to yourselves, and we can relate. We understand what you're going through. So what can you, I'm going to hand over to Dave in a moment, but what you can expect from the next 2 days is to hear the latest on genetic epilepsy research and precision medicine treatments, but also peppered with those stories that GETA likes to provide you of real people who are also going through what you're going through. So we're going to hear about some of those as well. You're going to hear from world-leading medical and scientific experts. Now, before we kick off, I'm going to invite David Cunnington to the stage, but he's going to provide some context of what's going to happen in the next few days. So we've not done this before, but we thought it was a really nice way for us to put all the different talks into context on a customer journey, not customer journey, on a timeline for you to understand which speaker relates to which part of your journey. Now, before I do hand over to Dave, I just want to introduce Dave with a quick story about his son, Will. So Will is now 19? 20, I missed that. Will's now 20, but when my eldest, who's 12, went to school, she was 5. And everyone who has a preppy that goes to school for the first time is a little anxious. You can imagine when you have a non-verbal child who has seizures, the anxiety levels through the roof. So the first day Jaylee got onto the bus, the bus chaperone said to me, she'll sit next to this young man. He doesn't talk, but he understands everything. And I can tell you in that moment, I just felt so reassured that Jaylee was sitting next to a little boy who would take care of her, who would understand and could actually be her advocate, and he could talk on his iPad if he needed to. And it was really reassuring. And I kept putting her on the bus each day, on and off, and saw Will and said, "Hi, Will." And this went on for a few years. And then we formed Getter. And into my house walks Will with his parents, and it was fortuitous, and it was just so nice to know that this little boy who I'd put my trust in for the last few years was actually part of a bigger family that also were so instrumental in our lives as well. So what I'll do is I will hand over to Dave. He's going to take you through the building of the context of why you're here and what you're going to hear in the next few days.